Cardi B cries bitterly after Stefon Diggs's fascinating gesture. No one saw this coming. No one, not the fans, not the blogs, not even the people closest to her, was prepared for what happened that night. The room was quiet. Too quiet. Cardi B sat alone on the edge of the couch, her phone resting face down beside her, her hands folded tightly together as if she were bracing herself for impact. Her eyes were already glassy, red from hours of overthinking, from replaying every argument, every misunderstanding, every moment she thought she might have pushed him too far. She had been strong for so long. Too strong. The internet had been loud for weeks, speculation, rumors, opinions flying everywhere. People dissecting her love life like it was public property. Questioning her choices. Questioning him. Questioning whether what they had was even real. And tonight felt different. There was a knock at the door. Soft. Careful. Almost hesitant. Cardi didn't move at first. Another knock. She slowly stood up, her heart pounding so loudly she swore she could hear it in her ears. When she opened the door, there he was, Stefon Diggs, standing there in silence, no entourage, no cameras, no dramatic words. Just him. He didn't smile. He didn't speak. Instead, he stepped inside, gently closed the door behind him, and reached into his jacket. Cardi's breath caught. Her mind raced 1,000 miles per hour. What is this? Why is he here? Is this goodbye? Is this closure? But then, he did something that shattered her completely. Stefon slowly pulled out a small, worn notebook. Not a gift bag. Not jewelry. Not flowers. A notebook. He handed it to her with both hands, his eyes never leaving hers. Read it, he said quietly. Confused, Cardi opened the notebook. And that's when it happened. The first page was dated years ago, long before the public knew anything about them. Every page after that was filled with handwritten notes. Thoughts. Feelings. Moments he never said out loud. Pages about watching her struggle and still stand tall. Pages about how her laughter changed his darkest days. Pages about nights he wanted to call but didn't, afraid of being a distraction instead of a support. Pages about loving her loudly in silence. Her hands began to shake. By the time she reached the middle of the notebook, Cardi's lips were trembling. Tears fell onto the pages, smudging the ink as she read words meant for her eyes only. One line hit her like a punch to the chest. If the world ever turns on you, I need you to remember, I never will. That was it. Cardi B broke down completely. She collapsed onto the couch, sobbing, real, bitter cries that came from deep in her chest. Not the kind you can hide. Not the kind you can stop. Her shoulders shook. Her makeup ran. Her breath came out in broken gasps. Stefon didn't rush her. He simply sat beside her and pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly like he was anchoring her to the ground while her world fell apart. I didn't know, she cried. I didn't know you felt all this. I didn't know you stayed this strong for me. He pressed his forehead against hers. I never needed you to know, he whispered. I just needed you to feel safe. The gesture, so simple, so deeply personal, hit harder than any public declaration ever could. No post. No interview. No headline. Just truth. Just vulnerability. Just love expressed without noise. And in that moment, Cardi realized something powerful. This wasn't about fame. This wasn't about optics. This wasn't about proving anything to anyone else. This was about two people choosing each other in the quiet, when no one was watching. As the tears finally slowed, Cardi held the notebook to her chest like it was the most precious thing she'd ever been given. This, she said through tears, means more than anything anyone's ever done for me. Stefon smiled softly, brushing her tears away. Then it was worth it. Outside, the world kept talking. Inside that room, something healed. And that night, long after the tears dried, Cardi B cried not from pain, but from finally feeling understood. Here's a very long, emotionally charged, cinematic-style fictional story, written exactly in the dramatic tone you like for high-engagement YouTube storytelling. Backhand index pointing down. Entertainment and fictional narrative. Cardi B cries bitterly after Stefon Diggs' fascinating gesture that leaves everyone shaken. The room went completely silent. No music. No cameras flashing. No laughter. Just the sound of Cardi B's breathing breaking apart, her hands trembling as she tried, and failed, to hold herself together. Nobody expected this. Not her team. Not the guests. Not even Stefon Diggs himself. Moments earlier, the atmosphere had been light. Casual. Almost normal. Cardi had been smiling, cracking jokes the way she always does, loud, unfiltered, unapologetically herself. But then something shifted. Something deeply personal unfolded right in front of her eyes. And that's when everything changed. The gesture that stopped time. Stefon stood up slowly. No announcement. No speech. No warning. He didn't reach for a microphone. He didn't look around for approval. Instead, he reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out something small, but heavy with meaning. At first, Cardi didn't understand. She tilted her head, confused, her smile fading inch by inch as realization crept in. The room leaned forward. Phones came up. People whispered. And then Stefon walked straight toward her. Knee to knee. Eye to eye. He opened his hand. Inside was something Cardi never thought she'd see again, something tied to one of the most painful chapters of her life. A symbol of loss. Of silence. Of nights she cried alone when the cameras were off. Her lips parted. Her eyes filled instantly. Why would you bring that here?" she whispered, her voice cracking. Stefon didn't answer. Instead, he did something no one expected. The moment Cardi B broke down, Stefon gently placed the item into Cardi's hands, then wrapped her fingers around it like he was protecting her heart. And that's when Cardi collapsed. Not dramatically. Not for show. She cried bitterly, the kind of crying that comes from years of bottled-up pain finally breaking free. Her shoulders shook. Her knees nearly gave out. She covered her face, sobbing uncontrollably as tears streamed down her cheeks. "I thought you forgot," she cried. "I thought nobody remembered how much that hurt me." The room froze. People looked away, not out of boredom, but out of respect. This wasn't entertainment anymore. This was raw. This was real emotion, even in a fictionalized moment. Stefon stepped closer and whispered something only she could hear. And whatever he said destroyed her completely. What he said that shattered her heart, in a good way. "I didn't forget," he murmured. "I never will. And I'll never let you go through that kind of pain alone again." Cardi grabbed his jacket, burying her face against his chest, crying harder than before. Her makeup smudged. Her confidence disappeared. In that moment, she wasn't the global superstar Cardi B. She was just a woman who had been seen. And that's what made the gesture so powerful. It wasn't expensive. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't about headlines. It was about memory. It was about understanding. It was about showing up when it mattered most. Why this gesture hit Cardi so hard? People close to Cardi later whispered that the object Stefon gave her represented a moment she thought the world had already moved on from, but she never did. A moment that changed her. A moment that hardened her. A moment she rarely talks about. To see Stefon acknowledge it, not publicly, not loudly, but intentionally, hit her deeper than any grand declaration ever could. She cried because she felt safe. She cried because she felt understood. She cried because someone finally met her pain with care instead of curiosity. The aftermath, why fans couldn't handle it. Within minutes, reactions exploded. This is too emotional, loudly crying face. I wasn't ready for this. Stefon Diggs just changed the game. Cardi crying like that broke me. People weren't arguing. They weren't gossiping. They were feeling. Because the gesture reminded everyone that sometimes the most powerful acts aren't loud, they're deeply personal. Final thought. Cardi B didn't cry because she was weak. She cried because someone reached a part of her heart that fame, money, and success could never heal on their own. And Stefon Diggs didn't make a gesture to impress the world. He made it to protect her soul. And in that moment, as Cardi cried bitterly in his arms, everything else faded away.
쳐다보고 있겠지. 묘한 짜릿함 그 속에 머물다 보면 어느새 제주 행비행 신비한 세계로 나를 이끌고 거짓말처럼 하늘을 날며 어느새 제주 바다가 내게로 와 있네. 다른 나는 아래를 쳐다보고 있겠지. 묘한 짜릿함 그 속에 머물다 보면 어느새 제주 행비행 신비한 세계로 나를 이끌고 거짓말처럼 하늘을 날며 어느새 제주 바다가 내게로 와 있네. 있어. 아래엔 간혹 도시가 보이곤 해. 그 도시에는 또 다른 내가 하늘에 떠가는 비행기를 올려다보고 있겠지. 쳐다보고 있겠지. 묘한 짜릿함 그 속에 머물다 보면 어느새 제주행 비행 신비한 세계로 나를 이끌고 거짓말처럼